Today I'm going to go over how I make some lo-fi style string sounds, and I'm going to do it in an interesting way, and the interesting way is I'm going to sample a sample, but the sample is going to be manipulated a little bit before we get it into the sampler, and then I'm going to use some really simple effects chain to show everybody how I like to do my string samples. So I have a Roland SP44 Mark II here, and I'm going to be using this just as a sample playback device so I can get samples into the sampler, which is kind of funny. You could use anything like an iPad or a media player or something along those lines that can play back a sample, because I'm just using some WAV files here, and those will be obviously input here. So let's get a sample into it. So let's go ahead here, shift import from SD card, sample, and I'm using these from Sonic Bloom and their Mellotron samples. And a Mellotron is a tape-based playback device that uses tape loops in order to it's like a rompler before like electronic rompling was a thing. So you can look up what a Mellotron is. A lot of the people that watch my channel probably already know that, but yeah, so I have some Mellotron samples. I'm going to use the string section ones. Just do a search on the web for the samples. I got these for free. They're available for free. I just don't want to link them directly in case they go down or something like that. But so I'm going to pick a sample of the string section and the pitch, specifically C4, because I like to have everything in C4 sampled. That way all my samples play nicely with each other. So C4, cool. We'll go ahead and select pad 2, execute it, cool. So now, if I exit out, let's look at the start and stop. I have a gated sample here, but let's loop it and turn off the gating so every time I press this, it'll just play. Cool, pretty simple. Now let's do some manipulation of the sample, make it sound even more lo-fi than it already is. So I'm going to use the Generation Loss Mark II here. So and I have an EQ curve. I have an EQ curve set here. I have the failure not too high. We don't want it too high. We want it still to sound okay. And yeah, wow and flutter, as you can see on the front of it, and that's about how I like it for these kinds of samples. So perfect. So that'll bake that those lo-fi bits and pieces into the sample. So what we'll do here's the sampler set. I have it on an empty slot. Let's open up that empty slot. Let's turn on the sampling pre-arm so we can see what the volume levels are. And we're peaking. Let's turn this down a little. Perfect. We're hitting about -6 dB. You don't want to clip on this because it'll sound absolutely terrible. All right. Let's go ahead and start the sampling process. And cool, so that's all in there now. So let's hear what we have. Let's go and check middle C to make sure that it was pitched right. And it sure was. Cool. So what we want to do here is we want to enable the looping. That way, let's see. Yep, so it's going to keep looping. Loop is great. Let's add a little bit of release. I think I had some release set already in this sample slot and some attack, so. Maybe not so much release. All right, I think that sounds absolutely lovely. And what I'm trying to get with these sounds is the SNES style 16-bit era sampled string sounds like you heard in a lot of JRPGs of the time, especially like Secret of Mana and Chrono Trigger, and that's kind of what this reminds me of. So yeah, it sounds really cool, but we're not done yet. We have a quick effects chain we're going to go through, and let's go ahead and save this sample. And that sounds, that's easy, so. we can play with our sample now and hear what it does. So the first thing I'm going to be using is the Dimension C by Boss. It's kind of a chorus. It's not a chorus. I don't know what the heck they really refer to it as. It's a spatial enhancer. So it works in the idea of a chorus. You basically have two Bucket Brigade lines in it that are modulated with, I believe they're offset. The phase of the modulation's offset, so it makes a big wide stereo image. The actual modulation isn't phase inverted as far as I know, but the LFO is. So here, let's go back to middle C. And I hope you're listening to this in stereo. So even though this looks like it's coming out stereo, the sample is completely in mono. So we have a completely mono sample here. So before and after. I guess it's kind of likened to the Haas effect when you do stereo widening. But yeah, I have this set in the SDD 320 mode, the rack mount unit mode here, and I think that in mode 4, and I think that sounds the best. I mean, if we go to the first setting, it's just not as wide, but 4 is really nice. We can add 3 and 4. Now let's just go 4. All right, that sounds absolutely wonderful. So now let's add a delay. I don't generally like to add a reverb to these kind of samples because they get way too muddy, but a stereo delay, especially a ping pong delay, especially an era appropriate style ping pong delay, something 12-bit. This is emulating a rack mount like 12-bit unit of the era, and we'll listen to that. So let's just hear it without. So hold on. Again, I hope you're listening to this in stereo. Let's give it a little less time. We have the repeats nice and high here. A little bit of tone shaping. We want it to be a little darker. So that sounds absolutely wonderful. So let's add it now with the Dimension C. All right. And yeah, that's kind of the way I like it. This is going to be a pretty quick video, and I'm almost done. Let's pitch it way down and hear what that sounds like. It'll sound really cool. Yeah, so that sounds really cool. Let's take the overlay off. Let's add a little bit of filtering to it from the Liven here. So to do that, you have to turn on the filter. So I have to go out of sampling mode. So let's do this. Clearing out. Let's go into track 4. I have this as the last sample. Cool. Let's go ahead and turn on the filter. Low pass. That one works. I like that one. Oh, that's resonant though, but we can turn off down the resonance, so let's do that. Turn up the volume a little. All right, now we have some filtering going. we go. That's how I like to do those kinds of strings. Yeah, thanks for watching. This is another one of my sound design field guide videos. I'll have more. I'm probably going to do some more on the string section because I just like the sound of strings, but this is sampled strings being manipulated into much more lo-fi strings, and they sound fantastic. And they give a almost SNES, the 16-bit era style JRPG sound that I really like.